name's Edie Lush. I'm the executive editor of Hub Culture, and it is Davos. It's 2026. Very delighted to be with one of our partners at Sabic. How are you, Olivier?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, Edie, to have me here with you today.
Absolutely.
In this cold and
I know, it's
sunny
cold.
weather.
It's invigorating.
Absolutely.
So you are executive vice president chemicals at Sabic. It's such a fascinating time in your industry. Let's talk a little bit about making green products profitable, first of all. So a lot of companies want to use lower carbon chemicals, but they're not going to commit until that they know that prices aren't going to spike. Talk a little bit about how you're getting your downstream customers to sign longer term purchase agreements for some of the green polymers and the recycled materials that you're producing.
Actually, we've been one of the first companies to actually invest more than $300 million in Holland to use plastic waste through what they call chemical recycling, so that we could make virgin polymer with the same quality and properties that people buy today. And that plant is now up and running. It's technically working, and we have for that facility secured long-term agreements, mainly with big brand owners who want to indeed have packaging made from these circular polymers. I think the challenge we see is how do you scale it up? So we know it can work at lower volume. The question is now to find markets for us where people are willing to pay the additional costs. And the additional costs are real.
Talk a little bit about that. Talk about how you scale up and what you need in terms of partnerships for that.
So I think that the scaling up is going to be all about economics. Are people willing to pay probably twice as much for polymer that has used recycled waste? There will be, obviously, if you go down the chain and how you get the waste collected and efficiently brought to these facilities without emitting too much carbon. There is a trade-off between using circular plastic and carbon emissions as well. So it's not that a simple topic, but we know that technology does exist, does work. It has to be improved as well to get to a lower cost point. And that's chicken and egg is
Right.
where I think the scale-up will win or not.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about building these electric furnaces and versus buying the technology, because the post-2030 plan that Sabic has includes these electric cracking furnaces, but the technology doesn't yet exist at the commercial scale. So do you want to build these in-house, or do you want to partner with others?
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic, because we actually did partner with BASF and Linde to pilot those at scale. So we have built 2 years ago an industrial scale facility that demonstrates 2 ways to use electricity as a way to provide the heat, so that we can make, as you said, a furnace in steam crackers that make the building block for plastics. So these now have been running for 2 years. They actually work. Now what you need is what I call the predictable green electron, which, by the way, is more scarce than we believe.
Is it?
It is. Yeah, because you can have green electrons which are not very predictable, but the one which is there 24/7 all the time when you need it, this one is much more difficult to get. So we're looking now and how should we deploy that? Probably part of existing facilities, so that we can just have a gradual scale up. The kingdom looks at a natural place to do that because of the abundance of renewable energy. But at the same time, we will also need to find customers that are valuing these lower carbon plastics.
So I wonder about how government money changes the game, because obviously in Saudi Arabia, the government is hugely involved in all of this, and green hydrogen has a lot of government backing, and that's helped secure the bank financing. So what should Europe do? What would your recommendation for Europe to do? Should it get the government involved in terms of getting the loans secured for chemical plants, or does this create unfair advantage?
Well, I think Europe has taken a different tack. They actually impose constraints. So they impose some element of recycling materials. They impose, a price on carbon. So it feels a bit, from an industry standpoint, as a stick approach. You create a regulatory environment in which you have to do things, otherwise you can't operate. The US took a very different tack with the IRA to say, well, let's give incentives, tax incentives for people to invest, so that they can create the supply at a cost point that will favor adoption. I think the European challenge we have, and we heard President Macron mention that yesterday, is we need to simplify. I think the set of legislation put in place to incentivize or force the use of greener product is extremely complex and sometimes a little bit theoretical and lack pragmatism. So simplification, pragmatism will go a long way to unleash that. It is evident that without some element of a government mandate or support, it would be very difficult for those products to get off the ground on pure commercial basis.
Interesting, but it can come in different ways. Let's talk about where all this plastic waste is going to come from. Now, we all know about the mountains of plastic that are everywhere, but I wonder who can provide you reliably all of this waste and at a low carbon production cost or whatever, providing cost. I'm not quite sure what the number is. Do you have deals with waste companies, with brands, with retailers? How does it work?
Yeah, so in an area like Europe where plastic collection and sorting is mandated, there is an ecosystem in place. So of course, the ecosystem is quite challenged today because of the virgin plastic prices are quite low. Now, in the kingdom, there is a very important initiative where waste will have by 2030 to be more than 95% collected, reused, or incinerated, and not disposed in landfill as it is today. And that is creating the ecosystem that will allow Sabic, I mean, let's remember that the large part of our asset base is based in the kingdom, to get access to some of this feedstock. I think concentration is important. So if you have large cities, it's much easier to get the collection system working. Now, you don't want to transport plastic waste for long distance.
No.
So that's part of the equation. So we believe we're working today with consortium that putting in place the waste collection and waste recycling system in the kingdom to get this feedstock and put them into our supply chain.
Let's also talk about certification rules, because we all know that trust is this sort of dark matter in the universe. You don't know how to make it, how to get it, but once you have it, it's super powerful. And certification can help the people build trust that this is something that is actually a low carbon thing. So talk about how these different certification systems, what they mean, and what we should all be thinking about them.
Yeah, so think about, you buy your pot of product and you have your calories per gram, right? What would it take to get the carbon footprint per gram of what you buy on the shelf? It requires a very robust system, which can be clearly traceable, auditable, with very clear standards, that give people confidence that there is really, the label says what it is. We're quite far from there. So we have different standards in industry. I mean, the ISCC has been trying to put a framework together, but the industry has to do much more to say, okay, let's agree for steel, for glass, for chemicals, how are we going to account for emissions down the chain, starting from the raw material all the way to the product you buy. And if you have that system, you can snowball it down the value chain. But we're quite far from it, but it's a key enabler, and that's one where the industry has, I think, to take the lead. We know what it takes to make it work. We can use digital blockchain to create traceability. We're not there yet, but it's absolutely needed. If we want to build a trust that we're not greenwashing, we really have what we say the product contains.
So I just wonder as well, plastic never disappears. It can be continued to be recycled, and actually the ice house down the promenade is a great example of exactly that. But I wonder if chemical companies have a role in helping customers design products that are easier to recycle. Is that part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you see is more and more larger plastics that get in use because they can be recycled more easily. It's not blending too many different plastics that cannot be disaggregated afterwards. So you see that design for recycling clearly as a standard in Europe, but also in other parts. Brand automotive manufacturers are looking at that, and it's not only, and it's really, we can provide a resin, but it's more how you build the components and how you assemble them together that will allow that. So it's a value chain effort to create recyclability, things you can repair, reuse, dismantle, and there are so many ways to get the R to work between recycling, reuse, and that's what we have to and reduce obviously in terms of efficiency.
Fantastic. Olivier, thank you so much for stopping by our slightly cold studio here in Davos.
That was cold.
We'll let you go get into the warm.
I'm happy you kept it short and crisp.
Thank you so much. Davos 2026, Hub Culture.
Thank you.